Okay, we're going to try and break this down a little bit simpler, see if we can get the message across.
So she's pushing back on, like, again, the idea, oh, it's really concerning, harmful, that Morgan is saying those who are living in sin, like that sin could
cause you to feel depressed, cause you to feel anxiety, like all this stuff.
so again.
So the only way that sin is going to cause you anxiety is if you believe it's a sin, because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't attribute your anxiety to what we have deemed the plank in your eye. You do not recognize the judgment that you levy on folks. That's fine. You're not feeling depressed or anxious because you are sinning in that way. You were only anxious and depressed when you were sinning in a very specific way that is under your specific interpretation. So that perspective makes a big difference. So people that are outside of the faith, who are doing things that are not actually harmful, they're just against your particular religious beliefs, they're not going to have that anxiety and depression because of those things unless people like you are shaming them.
Just whatever, you live your life however you want to live your life. Like, if you're out here watching PORN or getting drunk all the time or struggling with drugs, whatever it might be,
Taking new people home every night, just
yeah,
these unhealthy lifestyles, but you're thinking to yourself, this isn't going to contribute at all to having a poor mental health.
right.
Holy false equivalence, Batman. So having addiction issues can actually, through evidence, harm you. Having multiple partners, not believing in needing to remain abstinent until marriage, things like that do not have an actual evidence-based harm. Now, you can say that doing something like that while within your belief system was distressing because your belief system was telling you that it was wrong and was giving you guilt and shame for doing those things. So you created the problem that you are having because you chose to select those as the thing. And that's fine. You can do that. But you cannot make blanket statements saying that people who are struggling with depression and are also doing things that you consider sinful, that the two are somehow related, or that there is no fixing the mental health issues without fixing the sin issues. That's just not how this works.
Chemical imbalance. They love to cry chemical imbalance, and that's.
If someone came to me and said, I just want you to know that you do not have to live like this for the rest of your life, like, that would have immediately brought me hope.
Yes, it does. And my therapists have told me that. My psychiatrists have told me that no, the way that you are experiencing your symptoms while untreated, you do not have to stay like that. Now, does that mean that you are ever going to fully overcome your mental illness and not have any issues, not need ongoing treatment? Not necessarily. In many cases, it is a chemical imbalance. It is a problem with your actual physical brain. And so taking sin out of your life is not going to change that chemical imbalance. It is not going to change that fundamental miswiring in your brain. It's just not. And trying to peddle this advice that it will be transformative to find Christ. What is transformative is finding coping mechanisms. So if for you, a religious coping mechanism works, awesome. I have my own religious coping mechanisms. They're probably fairly similar to stuff that you do. I pray. I have religious songs that I sing, and I do find comfort in those things. So I can completely appreciate that. But having that faith does not wipe out my mental illness. It may assist, but it's assisting no more than that getting out in the sunlight, getting exercise, taking my meds, going to therapy, taking a shower every day, making sure to feed myself wholesome food. Yes, all of those things are helpful. And if you do those things, then 5, 10, 15 years down the road, your life is going to look very different. That does not mean you have overcome your mental illness and you are now free from it. And promising such a deliverance from mental illness is disingenuous and invalidating of people who have lifelong mental illness despite having a devout faith. Even Paul had a thorn in his side. It's debated whether that was a mental issue, whether that was a physical issue, whether that was a particular weakness to sin that he had, whatever it was. He had that thorn in his side his whole life. Knowing Jesus did not deliver him from that thorn in his side. Having Jesus certainly helped him cope with the thorn in his side, but it did not overcome the thorn in his side. So it is just so harmful, and it discourages people from getting treatment because they feel like, well, if God can't fix me, no one can. And that takes hope away from people. You want to say, no, you don't have to be like this all the time? A lot of us who are haters, we were in the church for a long time. We were true believers. We absolutely believed what we were told. We absolutely thought Jesus was the way to deal with our depression when we were tweens and teens and young adults. We went to God. We took it to God. We had church support. And you know what? We still had mental illness. To peddle this miracle story needs to be contextualized as just that, a miracle story. They're called miracles because they don't happen hardly ever. So if you have a miracle story, congrats. Absolutely. But do not try to extrapolate out from that what even a significant chunk of people with mental illness who are seeking God are going to receive. You were upset when people in the hyper-charismatic church were praying words over you and giving you blessings and saying prophecies about you getting pregnant, and you didn't get pregnant. Now imagine how someone who was in that dark place that you once were, and you tell them that you're going to speak this prophecy over them, basically, that if they seek God, they're going to see freedom from their mental illness, and they don't get it. Do you not understand how that would be similarly disconcerting, disheartening, disillusioning as the hyper-charismatic church was for you?
Because I would have known this is a season and I'm going to walk through it. I'm going to get through it.
They don't want to necessarily give their
Right.
patients a fool's hope, because sadly, I would say the majority of people that are struggling in this way are not going to completely overcome it. Again, not to say you don't still deal with it to an extent, but it's completely, I'm just saying this, I live with this woman. It's a completely different ballgame.
Exactly. You still struggle with it from time to time. Again, this is coping. This is not freedom from it. It is still something that you have to be wary of. It is still something that you have to be watchful for. It's It's something that will be with you for the rest of your life. You have a way to cope with it, and that is fantastic. That is what I wish for every single person with a mental illness. Find a good way to cope, a healthy way to cope. But you are turning that around and then saying, we recognize this is never going to happen, but let's talk for 20 more minutes about how Morgan was completely freed and overcame, and Jesus is the only way. It's The cognitive dissonance is astounding. The lack of self-awareness to doing exactly what you are upset about other people doing.
We'll bring like obesity into it. Obesity now, even from doctors, is seen as a disease.
Of course, we're bringing obesity into it. Of course, we're bringing obesity into it. We just love to do that. Gotta throw a little fat shaming in there whenever we possibly can, right?
You just live with it, and it really the oh well how can we medicate this? How can we put you on certain drugs? I'm just saying this. I live with this woman. It's into it. Obesity now, even from doctors, is seen as a disease. And so, what are most doctors going to do when an obese patient comes in? Oh, well, how can we medicate this? How can we put you on certain drugs?
Tell me you have never met with a doctor about weight management without telling me. I have been working with physicians, nutritionists, endocrinologists, etc., to work on my weight for years. And you know what? Just like with mental health, they don't give you any major promises. They're not like, yeah, you're absolutely going to lose 100 pounds. That's not how this works. They are going to make reasonable goals to set, and they are going to assist you with making sure that your hormones and your vitamins are where they need to be. Make sure that, if you need support for high blood pressure or arthritis or something that will help you get more active, they absolutely the nutritionist you talk to will absolutely talk about ensuring that you are getting a balanced diet, a diet that works with your particular body type and your particular issues that caused you to gain weight, because someone who gained weight because they had a baby is going to be a different situation than someone who gained weight because they were put on psychiatric medication that has a side effect of gaining weight. So, they look at this holistically and they do assist you. Now, every once in a while, you will have a doctor who's like, yeah, in your situation, you have made changes XYZ, and we are still not seeing the results that we are hoping for. So let's try this medication to assist you with this. The medication is not the full treatment. The medication is not the first option. If you talk to anybody who had bariatric surgery, they had to go through years of weight management and diet and exercise and all this stuff, therapy. Like, in order to get the bariatric surgery, you have to prove that you're going to be able to stick to your post-surgery diet and exercise plan, and that it's going to actually be effective, because otherwise the surgery can be harmful for people. So, this is not immediately what a doctor is going to go to. Yes, they will see it as a disease in some cases, but that doesn't mean that the treatment is automatically medication. And that doesn't mean that treatment is the only medication. And that doesn't mean that treatment for obesity should be downplayed as if it's this ridiculous thing that newfangled doctors are doing. Just get over yourself.
To help you just live with it, and really the idea of losing 100 pounds or 200 pounds and getting the right weight, that's not even really in the conversation.
It absolutely is part of the conversation. You set weight loss goals, you set exercise and diet goals. Again, tell me you've never had a conversation with a doctor about weight without telling me.
Implore you guys, get right with God. It's not going to make all your troubles go away, but it's a life-changing thing.
This is incredibly condescending to most of us that are having issues with what you guys say. We've had Christ. You know, it's like you have Zoloft and sertraline. No, Zoloft is sertraline. So you know you have Zoloft and Prozac and all these different antidepressants, and so you try one and it doesn't work, so you try a different one. Yeah, we've tried Jesus, and we're ready for the different antidepressant because it doesn't work. This is this false hope that you are peddling, and not every coping skill is going to work for everyone. So therefore, your coping skill of Jesus is not going to work for everyone. And shaming people who are not helped by it, being condescending to people who have tried it and it didn't work, it wasn't for them. You are so upset, you are pressed that people disagree with your miracle story as being attainable. But then you complain that doctors and therapists and psychologists are refusing to give people hope because they won't promise them a miracle. There is a functional reality. You guys are harping on about having an objective reality. We have objective reality. We have studies. We have clinical trials. We have decades of information about mental health, and we are constantly learning in that. And we are constantly moving further and further and further away from these religious-based systems because they involve so much shame and guilt over arbitrary things. And if that happens to be your religious beliefs, if that happens to be what you believe is true, great, go with it. But insisting that others need to have that same faith in order to get exactly what you get out of it, it's unrealistic. And in so many cases you're promising more than can possibly be delivered. You're making promises for God. You're acting as if you are the mouthpiece of God. And the fact that you have the audacity to do such a thing is just phenomenal. You have no theological training. You have no experience other than just running your mouth on YouTube. You just are a person with an opinion, and you love making that opinion everybody's problem because your way is the only way. If you actually looked at the discussions of dissent, you would see that there are a number of ways that it is responded to. We do not all say, your way is wrong and there's this one other right way. We absolutely embrace that there is a variety of ways that people will successfully deal with mental illness. That's going to be different for every single person. That's just how it is. And we just want you to recognize that people, especially young people, do actually look up to you, Girl Defined, etc. And you give them these false hopes. You set them up for failure, and you want to know why people are leaving the church? Because they were set up for failure. So if you really want people to spend their lives in the faith that you have, you need to start being more realistic.
They bash us for 30 minutes, and then there's 1 minute of saying,
Right.
I genuinely hope the best for them,
Right.
and then I'll go on bashing them and calling them homophobes and racist and sexist and all the names. Oh, but then I really hope the best for you. But nevertheless, Jen, I genuinely, it's incredible how much capacity I have to love. I love you, Jen, and I'm for you, and I hope the best for you,
Yeah.
and for your life, and anyone watching that really doesn't like us and doesn't like religion and stuff. I hope the best for you guys.
Anyone.
So you don't believe Jen's sincerity when she spends most of her video talking about the problematic things that you say, because that's the point of the video. However, she does make a moment to be like, hey, I disagree with the things that you're saying, but as people, I hope that you're okay because I'm a human and you're a human, and that matters. And then immediately after that, you are talking about the people that you're constantly condescending to and complaining that we're ruining your sponsorships and we're just this dark influence on the world, but you still love us. And it's like, are you being sarcastic in order to make fun of the way that Jen expressed concern for you, or are you really just that not self-aware to recognize that you are doing precisely what you're complaining Jen did and wasn't okay?
Out there who is struggling with any type of mental illness, I would just challenge you and encourage you to look to the Lord and find the freedom that is available to you.
Except that freedom is not available to everyone. Again, you are making this blanket statement promising a miracle to the majority or even a significant portion of the people who pursue your particular type of coping mechanisms. You just do not seem to grasp that you can't have it both ways. You can't claim that you are completely open to people pursuing other options and spend most of your video talking about how all of those other options are sinful and demonic and part of the world and they're going to make your problems worse. It's one thing to say that, this couple are saying things that are objectively false, objectively concerning, etc. And yet, as people, I hope they're okay. It's another thing to sit up there and say, you are controlled by Satan, you are living in sin and darkness, and you are evil, and you are corrupting the world, but we still love you.
Says sunshine and exercise is thought to be the most healthy remedy for depression. I mean, not gonna lie, I was really pale when I was depressed, meaning I was spending a lot of time in the darkness.
Guys, go watch our earlier videos about a year in.
No!
You were so pale.
I feel my best when I'm pouring into other people.
Do you understand how many times people with mental illness have been told to get outside more, just get more sun? How about exercise? Have you tried meditating? Have you tried yoga? Are you eating your vegetables? Oh, are you getting enough turmeric in your diet? We have heard all of this. We're aware. And you know what? We do this stuff. When I was dealing with crippling depression before I had found the right meds and whatnot, I was taking my dog for a walk 4, 5, 6 times a day. I was out in the sunlight all the time. Do you know what? Yes, it did help. Did it make things go away? Did it make me not need medication? Did it not make me need other coping mechanisms? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Again, you are trying to promise a miracle off of something that cannot actually produce that. You are pushing this toxic positivity that, oh, just have a sunnier perspective, just spend more time being grateful. And like, yeah, you, again, these are things that you can do. You, if you're like me, you have like lists on the wall of different coping mechanisms to grab, of different perspective challenging statements to make to yourself. You have all of these tools, but that's all they are. They are tools to deal with the problem. So whether you are turning to Jesus or whether you are using cognitive behavioral therapy, you're coping. You are managing your illness. It is not freeing you from your illness. You're doing something in order to receive relief.
I feel my best when I'm pouring into other people.
And
Yeah, don't get me wrong, you guys. I am not saying that if you're struggling with depression, you're sinning. You're living in sin. Like,
Okay, so there's a saying. Well, there's two sayings. One is that you cannot pour from an empty cup. There is certainly a dopamine response that you can have to volunteering and helping others. Absolutely. But if you are completely empty, you do not have the capacity to do that without being filled up by something else. And if you are able to be filled up by Jesus and then pour into others and feel better, awesome. Again, I'm glad your coping skill works for you. But there's another saying that you always put on your oxygen mask before you help someone else with their oxygen mask, because hypoxic help is not help at all. So there is a lot of truth to needing to fill yourself, to heal yourself, to soothe yourself, so that way you can pour into others. And just skipping over that whole filling yourself and you're just supposed to pour, pour, pour. This is what gets so many Christian women burned out. They are giving to their husbands, they're giving to their children, they're giving to their churches, they're giving to their community. If their kids are in school, they're giving to their kids' school. They're giving, 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 and they never get to actually refill. There is a really good influencer named Domestic Blisters. She does a lot of videos and has, I think, one or two books out about how to manage a household when you are struggling with mental health issues, and how to find ways to kind of hack your life so that way you can get the things you need done, but do it in such a way that you are allowing yourself to be refilled. So as you pour out to your family and to your home and everything, you're not completely burning yourself out. I believe the book is called How to Clean a House When You're Drowning. I'll see if I can find it and put it up on the screen. But it's a really good book, and she's really helpful for folks who are, especially parents, that have mental health issues. So highly recommend her. But the concept is not that you completely fix your problem and you never have to think about it ever again. Whatever coping skills are working for you, go for it. Use what works. But do not claim that whatever works for you is indicative of what even a significant faction of others like you are going to experience and be helped by.